So, as we are going to start our chanting today, before the Dhamma discussion, let's dedicate our chanting today to all the victims who lost their lives in the East terror attack in Sri Lanka, and let's extend our blessings to all got injured and to all the families of the victims. May they be well, may they be happy, and may they be peaceful. Let's chant the gathas together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅgham saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi saṅgham saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi saṅgham saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. Pāṇātipātā vīramani sikkhapadam samādhiyāmi. Adinādāna vīramani sikkhapadam samādhiyāmi. Kāmisu miccācārā vīramani sikkhapadam samādhiyāmi. Musāvādā vīramani sikkhapadam samādhiyāmi. Surāmīra manjapamādakkhāna vīramani sikkhapadam samādhiyāmi. Itipiso bhagavā araham samma sambuddho viññācarana sampanno sugato lokalido anuttaro purisa dhamma sārati sattha deva manussanam buddho bhagavati swakhato bhagavata dhammo sandikdiko akaliko yehi passiko panayiko pacchantam veditam vo viññohiti supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho patipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho Sāmici patipanno bhagavato
sāvaka sangho
Yadidam chattari purisa yugani atta purisa pungala Esa bhagavato sāvaka sangho Ahuneyo pahuneyo dakhineyo anjali kareyo anuttaram punyaktintam lokasvati sadhu 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 Okay, now let's practice some loving kindness and friendly thoughts. As we are thinking of all the victims of the Easter terror attack in Sri Lanka, let's think about all these individuals who lost their lives. They all went to the churches to celebrate the most important religious and holy day of their lives in their faith, looking for the spiritual happiness and peace. Because of the violent actions of some individuals, they lost their innocent lives. Let's pray for them. Let's wish them happy and comfortable journey of samsara until they attain the supreme happiness. And may they not face any of these tragic events in their samsaric journey. May they be well. May they be happy. May they be peaceful. Even thinking of all the surviving victims, their family members, those who are going through these tragic experience, these sad moments. Let's think of them, having all of them in our hearts and minds. Let's wish them, may they be free from suffering. May they be free from physical and mental discomfort. May they be well, happy and peaceful. May they be well, happy and peaceful. may they receive the protection, care, love and compassion as necessary. And let's think of all human beings, all non-human beings in the world, in the universe. We all are traveling through this samsaric journey, and none of us are free from these tragic experiences in our journey. Let's share our friendly thoughts, loving kindness and compassion with all beings in all directions, including all of us who are here now. May all beings be well, happy, peaceful and relaxed. May all beings be well, happy, peaceful and relaxed. May all beings be free from anger, be free from hatred, be free from all physical and mental suffering and all negativities. May all beings protect their own happiness. May this planet be safer and a positive place for all living beings. May all beings be well, happy, peaceful and relaxed. Taking a few deep, mindful breaths, refreshing your body and mind. Then you open your eyes. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dēsanã Suththa discussion. I have printed two discourses actually, so you can turn to the Dēsanã Suththa. So this sutta comes in the Samyutta Nikaya, short connected discourses of the Buddha. So let's see how it goes. On one occasion, the Blessed One was staying near Nalanda in the Pavarika mango grove. Then Asibandaputta, the headman, went to the Blessed One and on arrival, having bowed down to him, sat to one side. As he was sitting there, he said to the Blessed One, Lord, doesn't the Blessed One dwell with sympathy for the benefit of all beings? Yes, headman. The Tathagata dwells with sympathy for the benefits of all beings. Then why is it that the Blessed One teaches the Dhamma with full attentiveness to some and not with full attentiveness to others? So this household man asking this question. So he observed somehow this in the way that how Buddha teaches the Dhamma to different audiences, because it was very well known that the Lord Buddha to be all compassionated one, who had equal loving kindness and compassion for all beings. So it is one of the supreme characteristics of the Buddha. As he became a Buddha, he endowed with this enormous loving kindness. We call it the Mahakaruna, unconditional love for all beings. So it is very unique to the Samma Sambuddha, the fully enlightened one. So it was very well known even during that time in India among many religions, many ethnic groups and traditions. So this is why this person is asking this question from the Buddha. So he asked if he is having the same sympathy or the kindness for all beings. So Buddha said, yes, the Tathagata, the fully enlightened one, dwells with sympathy for the benefit of all. It is not different. So then he asked why the Buddha teaches the Dhamma differently for different people, different individuals, different audiences. So then Buddha, very well then, headman, I will cross-question you on this matter. Answer as you see fit. What do you think? There is the case where a farming householder has 3 fields. One excellent field, one middling, and one poor. Sandy, salty, with bad soil. What do you think? If that farming householder wanted to sow seed, where would he sow the seed first? In the excellent field, in the middle field, or in the poor field? Sandy, salty, with bad soil? If that farming householder wanted to sow seed, Lord, he would sow the seed first in the excellent field. Having sown it there, he would sow it in the middling field. Having sown it there, he might sow it in the poor field, sandy, salty, with bad soil. Or he might not. Why is that? It would at least go toward cattle fodder. In the same way, headman, like the excellent field, are the monks and nuns too. I teach the Dhamma that is admirable in the beginning, admirable in the middle, admirable in the end. I expound to them the holy life both in its particulars and in its meaning. Entirely complete, surpassingly pure. Why is that? Because they live with me as their island, with me as their cave, with me as their shelter, with me as their refuge. So this is how Buddha explains his way of teaching the Dhamma to different people, different individuals. So this is one of the Buddha's very effective ways of teaching the Dhamma to people, ordinary people, using very practical, simple examples, similes. So in the Tripitaka, in many discourses, almost everywhere we can see how Buddha used very interesting, easy to understand examples connected to everyday life. You know, in this case, this farmer. So when you think about that time period in India, so Buddha was very smart in using these practical examples to explain the deep Dhamma, deep meanings through these examples. So people were able to understand the Dhamma very easily, therefore. So Buddha was very smart, very skillful in doing that. So to explain that, Buddha used this example of three kinds of fields. The one field is being excellent in fertilizers, you know, the soil, the moisture, and all these good conditions in the field. And then the middle one, the moderate level field. And the third one is poor field, which has a lot of sand, salt, and bad soil, no much fertilizers. So Buddha asked this question, a very good, where would a smart farmer would sow the seed in the first place? So then, with that practical knowledge, this householder answered the question. This skillful farmer would sow the seed in the excellent field. After that, he will sow the seed in the middle field, and even after in the third field, thinking that at least it would benefit other animals, knowing that it is not going to be successful, fruitful, but still the farmer would sow the seed for the benefit of animals. So in the same way, Buddha explains, taking this example, like the middle field, like the excellent field are the monks and nuns to me. So the excellent field for the Buddha is actually the monks and nuns. This community is very dedicated. You know, they have sacrificed their life, entire life, for the practice, for the sake of the spiritual path. So therefore, as Buddha explains here, they are living with the Buddha as their island, you know, as their cave, as their safety place, as their refuge. So therefore, whatever Buddha teach to them, they directly absorb it, assimilate it, you know, accept it as with respect. So without any hesitance, you know. So that's why the monks and nuns, this spiritual community, the immediate disciples, are the excellent field for the Buddha to preach the Dhamma. So it is very important to understand in connection with the excellent field, right? So if you can remember in the chanting, in our short chanting before our meditation and this Dhamma discussion, when you chant the qualities of the Sangha, it is said in that stanza, Anuttaram Punyakketan Lokassa, which simply means the noble community of the monks and nuns, this spiritual community, is just like a fruitful field of merits for the lay people. So whenever they attend to this spiritual community, whenever treat them with respect, with saddha, the confidence, even when whatever they offer to them, that action will bring them a lot of merits because of their spirituality, because of their purity in the practice. So that's why this noble community of monks and nuns are merits of field of full merits for the lay community in this Buddhist understanding. So with that same idea, Buddha is explaining that here, this spiritual community to be having these essential background qualities actually, right? As they practice this Dhamma with a lot of dedications, you know, with enough sacrifice, they have better understanding, you know, just to have a spiritual life, a committed life like a monk and a nun, to enter that order is a huge sacrifice. It's a huge dedication if you think about it, because you know how hard it is to live your ordinary life, right? To become a spiritual person, to let go of your worldly obligations, you know, worldly matters, your relationships, your wealth, you know, all these worldly engagements. It's not that easy. It's very difficult, especially because ordinary people have a lot of attachments to these things, especially attachments for the sensual pleasure. This is what they are indulging in, engaging in these worldly conditions. So therefore, to enter a holy life, a spiritual life, like a monk and a nun, would be a very hard decision for anyone. So there has to be a lot of understanding, a lot of discipline, a lot of control to become a spiritual person and even to maintain that. It's not that easy. So when they make that strong decision, they enter the order, they enter this spiritual way of life with a lot of discipline. You know, having this necessary background. You know, that's why Buddha finds it very comfortable to teach the Dhamma to them. Because they have come to that stage, that level of understanding, that they are ready to absorb what Buddha would teach to them, right? So that's why Buddha says that these monks and nuns, this community, is just like an excellent field for the farmer to sow the seed in the first place. So that's what Buddha explained to this lay person. And then Buddha continues, like the middle field are the male and female lay followers to me. I teach them the Dhamma that is admirable in the beginning, admirable in the middle, admirable in the end. I expound to them the holy life both in its particulars and in its meaning, entirely complete, surpassingly pure. Why is that? Because they live with me as their island, with me as their cave, with me as their shelter, with me as their refuge. So, as we can see, Buddha teaches the Dhamma similarly, right? As we can see, how they take it, how they apply it is the difference, So, otherwise, Buddha would teach the Dhamma, as it says here, the Dhamma that Buddha would teach to these different audiences are admirable in the beginning, admirable in the middle, admirable in the end. So this is one of the qualities of the Dhamma. We call Swakhata, which means the Dhamma taught by the Buddha is excellent in the beginning, excellent in the middle, excellent in the end, which means the entire Dhamma leads to the inner peace, tranquility and spiritual happiness. It is the same in the beginning, same in the middle, same in the end. So that is to be having the same quality, which is the taste of peace, taste of tranquility, the spirituality. So it is same throughout the teachings. And also some other qualities of the Dhamma, as Buddha, how Buddha explained the Dhamma to them, in its particulars and in its meaning. How Buddha explains the Dhamma is very special. So Buddha, when he happened to teach the Dhamma, he explains the meanings of the deep concepts, deep factors, these conditions of our life, the world, as it goes into very deep, subtle levels. He explains the real meaning of these things in a practical level, in different aspects, entirely complete, having nothing left behind. Buddha did not leave anything behind, but he would teach everything in order to explain the true meaning of the Dhamma being taught. It's surpassingly pure. So the Dhamma leads to the purity ultimately. So this is how Buddha explains the Dhamma even to this middle field, which is the lay community, right? The male and female lay followers. So they are the ones who are engaging in these worldly matters, having family lives, doing different jobs, right? Living a very busy household life with a lot of responsibilities, right? So Buddha would teach the Dhamma in the same way to them. So at different times, different people came to the Buddha, like kings, very rich people, and highly educated people sometimes came to the Buddha and requested him, Bhante, we are different. We are different from your holy community. We are living an ordinary life with having kids, wearing these beautiful clothes, using all these perfumes, these other costumes, So therefore, teach us some Dhamma which would benefit us, in this very life, and which would be beneficial for others hereafter. So they have requested the Buddha to teach the Dhamma in such a way, So Buddha was very smart in teaching a necessary Dhamma for that type of audience as well. Buddha taught very interesting teachings, as you can remember the Dēsanã Suththa, right? Very practical teachings for a householder, to be very successful, in all areas. So there are very interesting, meaningful teachings that Buddha happened to teach for these ordinary people. Many people came to him to learn these necessary teachings. So therefore, the male and female lay followers are also very important part of this spiritual community as Buddha's followers. So that is the middling field, the middle level. Like the poor field, sandy, salty, with bad soil, are the followers of other sects too. Contemplatives, Brahmins, and wanderers. I teach them the Dhamma that is admirable in the beginning, admirable in the middle, admirable in the end. I expound to them the holy life, both in its particulars and in its meaning, entirely complete, surpassingly pure. Why is that? I think perhaps they might understand even one sentence. That will be for their long-term benefit and happiness. So the third field is the maybe we can call the followers of other religions, other faiths, other sects. So especially in that time, the time of the Buddha, there were so many religions. There were about 62 identified religions, beliefs. So that is the environment that Buddha came in, and he happened to visit these individuals also from time to time. It was very revolutionary time in a spiritual way in that Indian society. So there were a lot of debates, arguments among other religions, trying to prove that their teaching is the only truth. It was like a spiritual war kind of situation, but not in a violent way though, but spiritually they did that. So Buddha happened to visit these different religious groups, their temples, their monasteries, and there had been very interesting dialogues, interesting teachings. Sometimes I remember when Buddha approaching one of these groups, there had been a very huge noise, big noise in this particular group. So when they saw that Buddha was approaching them, the leader of that group shouted, at his followers, "Hey guys, please calm down, be silent. The Lord Buddha is approaching us. If we are quarreling like this, he would not come to us." He's appreciating the noble silence. So please be quiet, be calm. So in different discourses it is explained incidents like that. So Buddha, having approached to them, had very interesting dialogues. Buddha sometimes directly asked about their beliefs, what they are practicing. And sometimes Buddha made some critical arguments even. So Buddha sometimes made them understand the deep Dhamma. So sometimes these different individuals from different backgrounds, religious backgrounds, came to the Buddha as different questions. Some people came with very strong arguments, for debates, and eventually they understood the Buddha's message, and they became the followers of the Buddha eventually. So that would be the third field, the full field for the Buddha as his audience, because they have no faith like the ordained community, like monastics and the lay followers, but they are the outsiders for this understanding, this faith, this religion. So Buddha still would teach the Dhamma, which is excellent in the beginning, excellent in the middle, excellent in the end. So Buddha had a purpose, knowing that they would not completely comprehend, understand, realize this Dhamma, but if they can understand at least one sentence, even one word, knowing that would benefit them in the long term. Even having compassion for them, Buddha would teach the Dhamma. So that is how Buddha explained. And then the Buddha explains further. Suppose headman, that a man had 3 water pots. One uncracked that doesn't let water seep out. One uncracked that lets water seep out. And one cracked that lets water seep out. What do you think? If that man wanted to store water, in which pot would store it first? The uncracked one that doesn't let water seep out. The uncracked one that lets water seep out. Or the cracked one that lets water seep out. If that man wanted to store water, Lord, he would store it first in the uncracked water pot that doesn't let water seep out. Having stored in there, he would store it in the uncracked water pot that lets water seep out. Having stored it there, he might store it in the cracked water pot that lets water seep out. Or he might not. Why is that? At least it would go toward washing dishes. After storing. In the same way, headman, like the uncracked water pot that doesn't let water seep out, are the monks and nuns doing. So similarly, very simple example. I teach them the Dhamma that is admirable in the beginning, in the middle, in the end. I expound the Dhamma to them, the holy life, both in its particulars and in its meaning, entirely complete, surpassingly pure. Why is that? Because they live with me as their island, cave, and as their shelter, as their refuge. So similarly, right? So it's very interesting, when the holy community or the spiritual community of monks and nuns, when they listen to the Dhamma, when they listen to the Buddha, it is just like that uncracked water pot. The water doesn't seep out. So they sustain the Dhamma. They remember it. They take it with respect and saddha, right? So then they reflect on the Dhamma that they sustain in their mind, in their memory, and they investigate it, and they deeply contemplate in the meaning of the Dhamma, and they try to practice it. So we can see that important aspect of that group, as how they interact with that teaching, right, with respect and with better understanding, having this firm background for the Dhamma practice. So, like the uncracked water pot that lets water seep out are the male and female lay followers to me. I teach them the Dhamma similarly. Uncracked water pot that lets water seep out. So some of they are uncracked. Sometimes the water seeps out, right? So this is the level of the lay community, right? For them, it's hard to keep up with the practice. Sometimes they get carried away by these emotions, their difficult situations, difficult times, tragic moments, and as they are engaging in a lot of activities, socializing, having many responsibilities, it's very hard, difficult for them to keep up with the practice. Sometimes they don't find that they are putting enough effort, enough dedication, sacrifice to the practice. So that's in that moment, they can get controlled by these negativities. They can get carried away by these negative conditions. So that they are not really completely sustaining the Dhamma, remembering the Dhamma, and not analyzing the Dhamma as needed very often, and they do not get the real benefit of the Dhamma therefore. So that is the level of a lay household practitioner. So it would be different though, right? Depending on the understanding, the level of understanding, how much priority they give to the Dhamma practice, right? How much they appreciate it, how much they value it. Depending on these conditions, they can maintain like holy level or the spiritual or monastic level even. Being a lay person, there are people, individuals like that, depending on those conditions, seeing the value, the benefit of it, as they appreciate it, they give such a priority to the Dhamma practice. So they can maintain that higher level of engagement with the Dhamma, even in the lay community, right? As we can see. So somehow they are the second or the middle field for the Buddha. Like the cracked water pot that lets water seep out are the followers of other sects to me. Contemplatives, Brahmins, and wanderers. So Buddha would teach the Dhamma similar way. Thinking that it will be for their long-term benefit and happiness. They're not really seeing much value, any appreciations in the teachings, but sometimes they would understand some part of the teachings, some meaningful stuff there. So from time to time they will contemplate on these things, and it will bring some benefits to them. So that's why Buddha would teach, still would teach the Dhamma to them. Right. So that was the explanation by the Buddha for the question, right? So the question was, doesn't the Blessed One dwell with sympathy for the benefit of all beings? And then, why is it that the Blessed One teaches the Dhamma with full attentiveness to some and not with full attentiveness to others? So, according to the Buddha's explanation here, it is not the case. According to how he explained, he would teach the Dhamma similarly, having no difference, right, to all the audiences. But the difference is that how they get it, how they absorb it, right, how they take it. That is the only difference. Otherwise, Buddha had the same compassion, same attentiveness, same mindful awareness as he was teaching the Dhamma today, right? So it is that the level of their understanding, their emotional level, their level of dedication, understanding, that differs. So when this was said, Asibandaputta, the headman, said to the Blessed One, "Magnificent Lord, magnificent. Just as if he were to place upright what was overturned, to reveal what was hidden, to show the way to one who was lost, or to carry a lamp into the dark so that those with eyes could see forms. In the same way as the Blessed One, through many lines of reasoning, made the Dhamma clear. I go to the Buddha, I go to the Blessed One for refuge, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha for monks, Sangha of monks. May the Blessed One remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge from this day forward for life." So the person was so happy. So he accepted what Buddha taught, as he explained with these meaningful, simple examples. So this is a very simple discourse, but very meaningful. which teaches us how we should interact with the Dhamma. If you think about ourselves in our practice, where would fit in these three levels, right? In the healthy field, or the middle field, or the poor field. How we practice the Dhamma, how sensitive we are to the Dhamma, as we are listening to the Dhamma, as we discuss on the Dhamma, as we ourselves contemplate on the Dhamma, how much progress we are making in our practice, our life, how much positive transformations are we seeing. So depending on our levels, our differences are there actually, right? So in the Buddha's teachings, in many places, it explains there are different individuals, different categories actually, in terms of how they come to the full liberation or the final attainments. In different places, it explains as there are individuals, especially during the Buddha's time, Buddha had to teach only maybe 2-3 words to them. They suddenly realized the teachings, the entire Dhamma. So there were many monks and nuns. Even before they became monks and nuns, they were very smart, very intelligent, very spiritual individuals. The reason actually they have practiced these necessary Dhamma mostly in their previous lives as a training. They have gone through a lot of practice. So they have these seeds of enlightenment hidden. So Buddha had to only show them the glimpse of Dhamma, so they could completely understand the entire Dhamma. So that category to be the supreme quality, the group, So Buddha had to give only very short teaching, maybe 2-3 words. They don't have to spend much time. They didn't have to wait for years to attain the enlightenment, to realize the Four Noble Truths and attain enlightenment. So that was the reason. The second group actually, they need to have some extended teachings. Not only 2-3 words, maybe one stanza, 4-line stanza, or maybe one discourse like this. So they would realize the Dhamma completely as Buddha explained to them, in detail. So that is the second group. The third group is they have to practice with a lot of dedication. Years of practice, sometimes going to forests, these suitable places, monasteries, meditation centers, with a lot of sacrifices they have to come to the realization. So that is the third level. So they would still realize the Dhamma. And only in that way they can bring their spiritual faculties to the perfection level. The fourth level, as Buddha explains, there are individuals who would never realize the Dhamma in this very lifetime, depending on their predispositions, their backgrounds, their characters, the level of their emotions, their different views. So it's very difficult, very hard for them to understand the Dhamma in its true meaning. So they would not realize the Dhamma in this very lifetime. They need to go through these particular training, especially completing these necessary spiritual faculties, as we learn Saddha, Virya, Sati, Samadhi, Panya, the confidence, right effort, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom. These are the spiritual faculties they have to develop more. So this is the difference actually. In the first level, they have completed these qualities. So Buddha had to give only a couple of words. It's just like a lotus flower, which is waiting for the sun to rise, to bloom, just like that. So they needed only a little bit of support, spiritual guidance for that. So these four categories are explained in the Dhamma in terms of how they would realize the Dhamma. So it is important to know, it would be helpful for us to even reflect on ourselves, right? Maybe to get some understanding how much we are practicing, how close we are to the Dhamma, how close we are to the practice. So it would give us some wise reflections for our own practice. Do we have any questions? Yeah.
How do you know if you are enlightened?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. How do you know when you are enlightened? Right? So it's a good question for all of us as we practice the Dhamma, because that's the final goal of this spiritual path, the Buddha's noble path. So how do we know if we are enlightened? Do you have any idea? Any thought?
Well, if you have to ask, you probably are. If you have to ask that, if you have to ask if I'm enlightened, I don't think you are. Enlightenment is something.
I didn't ask if I didn't
Like,
ask that.
yeah, right. So
Right.
in general, like I think when you're enlightenment is something that isn't. It's not incomprehensible, to be honest, because
So you can comprehend it.
yeah, you can't, because
It's not incomprehensible?
it is incomprehensible
To be it?
to understand what enlightenment is,
I don't
because
know if it
If you are enlightened, right?
right,
Well, wait.
because if
The
you
Buddha comprehended it, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So it's
Yes.
not really incomprehensible.
He's saying it's comprehensible, right?
I don't think we can understand what enlightenment
Right.
is as
So
humans.
someone who hasn't tasted sugar doesn't know what sugar tastes
Exactly.
like.
That's what it means. Yeah.
Exactly. So you don't really know what it is. It's hard to explain because
But you could see it.
How do you see it?
You could see someone tasting sugar.
But you are not tasting it.
But you're getting
You're
a
making
taste
some
for it.
assumptions, right?
I think that the Buddha has shown the pathway to enlightenment. If you fulfill all those requirements, you will be there. It's nothing different. I mean, even Bhante is enlightened, we don't know, but he doesn't show anything. But he has shown the pathway. If you get all the tanha out and everything is out, you are enlightened. But the problem with us is we can't get rid of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Buddha says that, well, Gautama says that everybody is the Buddha. You just have to get there, right?
Okay.
So I forgot the second part, but can you repeat what you just said? The first part of what you said?
Buddha has shown the pathway to become
There's the second part.
the tanha.
The first part.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. So,
Anyway, I mean,
Right.
the Buddha has shown the pathway to the end, to become Buddha, or the enlightened. We don't say Buddha, but to enlighten, right? So what he has shown us all the way to the end, and we have to follow it.
so why?
Because we can't follow it because of our problems.
Well, we haven't gotten another Buddha since then, or there hasn't been another Buddha to be able to walk the path, right? So it is troublesome there, and I think there's question there. But my whole thing is, how do you prove that you are or
Okay.
have done it?
Okay. Yeah, any other thoughts?
It's a compelling question. Perhaps enlightenment is, I don't know, this might be silly, but my guess would be complete peace
Mm-hmm.
at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're at peace in all times, wouldn't you be following everything that the Dhamma teaches? If you were in complete peace
Exactly.
at all times in all levels of consciousness, wouldn't enlightenment be just complete peace?
Yeah, his words would be more of a,
Yeah.
it'd be like, well, yeah, kind of thing, as opposed to, oh, I should be following that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Because isn't the point of all these teachings is as human beings, we're problematic.
Mm-hmm.
We face so many problems, and so the teachings toward enlightenment are to learn as humans how to attain and achieve that peace.
Mm.
So that's why that's my
Yeah.
guess as to if you're enlightened, you're in complete
Yeah.
peace with yourself, with all beings and all
So-
levels of consciousness. However, I have to wonder, in terms of facing tragedy, as we've experienced yesterday, what would that look like in terms of facing that as enlightened?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yesterday.
Yes, the tragedies.
Okay.
How would that,
Mm-hmm.
with the attacks, what would that look like in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how would you interpret these tragedies as
Mhm.
enlightened?
So, my whole thing is, until you are the Buddha, you are not enlightened. And that's because if you're not the Buddha, then it's incomprehensible. So once you are the Buddha, you are now comprehending all of it. And so you can't comprehend anything, really, the way the Buddha can if you aren't there. So nothing is really enlightened until another person figures out how to get to the point where they're like, I know I'm the Buddha, but I need other people to believe me.
Okay.
I
Let's
think
see.
it's just transcending the I and the me, and it's not about comprehending intellectually. It's about awareness, and you're just part of everything. You're no longer your identity and your personality, and
Here's the thing with that.
you're not thinking.
I know where you're going with ego and stuff,
Yeah.
but the ego doesn't have to do with I as in, hi, how are you? Oh, I didn't know you were talking to me kind of thing. The ego has to do with, if I have $1 trillion, the first thing that your ego wants to do is ask, take me out to lunch, because you have $1 trillion and I'm short on rent. That's the ego.
Sure.
But
Okay. One comment?
So perhaps Bhante could
Yes.
fill in the sutras this was from, but I believe the Buddha gave a pretty clear definition of enlightenment, which was full penetration of the Four Noble Truths,
Okay.
and a mind that is entirely free from greed,
Yeah.
aversion, and delusion.
Mhm.
And so until
Or the 4 pillars though.
4 pillars,
You said four somethings.
4 Noble Truths.
Sorry, what are those?
Those are the truth of suffering, the
Okay.
truth of the cause of suffering,
Yep.
the truth of the cessation of suffering,
Yep.
and the path that leads to the cessation of suffering.
Yeah. So good comments actually. Good answers. So to answer that question, how I can
Prove it to other people.
I can let's not to others. Let's prove it to ourselves first, right?
Okay.
That's the most important thing. So how would I prove to myself that I'm enlightened? So for that question, actually, you need to learn in the first place what is enlightenment, what the enlightenment is. Without knowing fully what enlightenment means, how can you prove, or even what can you prove even to yourself, right? So you need to learn exactly what Buddha explained as the enlightenment, right? So it's very simple. It can be deep as you look at it. So as he was explaining, Buddha explained the enlightenment in many different ways. That would be very easy for us to understand the true meaning. The first one actually is the complete understanding of the Four Noble Truths. To be very direct, so we have to completely understand our problem, which is the suffering, that there is a problem going on in our life, which is the suffering, emotional suffering, physical, and all these negativities that we are suffering from. This is the problem. And the understanding of the cause of it, which is the craving, emotional attachment to these conditions, including myself, the self idea. And then if one can let go of this emotional attachment completely, that would end all the suffering. And there's a path leading to that cessation of suffering, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. So the complete realization of these Four Noble Truths, actualization of the Noble Eightfold Path. So if you can come to a conclusion, if you can prove to yourself that you completely realize, not just from the superficial intellectual level, but in the practical level, if you can make sure, so that is one way to prove to yourself that you are enlightened. And the other method is simply to end all the suffering. To end all the suffering is the enlightenment. So that we have to make sure. Am I suffering from something? Am I suffering from any condition in my life? Physical, mental, emotional, relational, all these external, like as he mentioned, these tragic situations in the world. Am I suffering? Am I having some conflict there? So in the enlightenment level, we let go of all these suffering, our internal suffering. No matter what happens in the external world, within ourselves, there's no suffering because of that complete realization of what is exactly happening as the ultimate truth. Okay, that is the second way to understand the enlightenment. So that we have to make sure it's a very individual, personal justification, right? No one else can do that. No one else can prove that for you unless you do that for yourself, right? And the third way of understanding it, ending this circle of birth and death, the circle of the samsaric journey we call existence, which is the ending of all necessary karmas. The karmas are the conditions that keep us going on this samsaric journey, the repeated circle of birth and death. So by ending all the karmas, enlightened one comes to an end, that there's no more rebirth for that person. Okay, that is enlightenment. And then ultimately, the complete realization of this body and mind. Everything is here. Everything is right within this body and mind. Even the Four Noble Truths, Buddha says. Nowhere else. Right within here. Right within this experience, within this body and mind. I say to you, these Four Noble Truths should be realized. So, if you do not know how these things happen, what happens here? What is the true mechanism of this body and mind? Our thoughts, feelings, emotions. There's something is missing. So with that ignorance, one cannot attain enlightenment. So we have some measurements there, right? So we have some practical aspects to make sure if we are enlightened or not, right? So as he mentioned, Buddha recommended as a path, complete path to the liberation, enlightenment, as Sila, Samadhi and Panya. So we can make sure if I have completed these things, or even to think about how much understanding I have about these things, right? Without knowing the path, how can one follow a path, right? So therefore we have to have some enough knowledge, understanding to follow the path. So when we have these resources, especially this practical experience, that is the way to make it sure. So that is what Buddha said, that we all are not Buddhists, but we all have the seeds of enlightenment, the possibility of being awakened or enlightened. So that's what we have to bring it to the reality through the practice. Yes.
My whole thing is, I can prove to myself all the time whenever I'm with people. I haven't been able to prove to one person.
Why do you have to prove it to someone else?
Because the Buddha's the Buddha. And the Buddha's no one but the Buddha. So see him for the Buddha. And then you'll see him for the Buddha. But if you see him as someone who's not the Buddha, then he's not going to be able to show you. If you can't, the thing is, you couldn't even comprehend his Buddha-ness. So it's like you better try to at least, so you can see his light.
True, I see your point actually. So what is the way to understand one's enlightenment? Buddha says actually, Buddha teaches on that too. For that, you have to associate with such an individual for a long time. You need to listen to them. You need to have some experience with them, especially listening to their insight.
The Buddhas.
Yeah, whoever claims to be enlightened, that's the way to understand. Maybe even that would not be complete comprehension. It's not easy. It's not just like you like press on something and make a conclusion, superficially. It's not done like that. You need to have some experience in the Dhamma. Unless you have followed it, unless you have tasted it, you would never realize an enlightened person. There's no way. So we should not bother about others' confirmation.
We do want a Buddha though, right? We do want a Buddha.
No.
We don't want another Buddha.
No, we don't.
Why?
Yeah, because Buddha had explained everything needed for us to be enlightened. So Buddha did not leave anything behind as a secret or anything. Everything is clearly explained. So Buddha set his teachings as the living Buddha when he died, when he passed away.
And his teachings were to follow in his footsteps.
Yes.
So he wants everybody to do it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So that is, the teachings is the living Buddha for us.
Yes.
So that's what exactly Buddha said. If one sees the Dhamma, sees the Buddha.
I disagree.
So that is very clear.
I think that your problem is Buddha. Is Buddha want to us to be enlightened, not to become Buddha. Buddha is just a name we gave to Gautama Buddha. So that's just a name. So he wants us everyone to enlighten.
Right.
So when you enlighten, I think you don't want to prove this. You don't have to prove others. When you enlighten, you don't have to. When you go to that point.
Right.
So
You need to have a Buddha to give that confirmation for you.
Yeah.
Once you enlighten, it cannot happen to you without you knowing. Because it's a complete realization of who you are and what you are.
Yeah.
Did Buddha say he was enlightened? Did he himself say?
Yes, of course.
Who did he tell first?
Who he told to 5 ascetics when he gave his first sermon.
What was their response?
they did not accept it. They didn't listen. That's why I said, there's no way. Just by looking at one person from superficial level, one cannot understand it.
What did he do?
So he was patient. He invited them to listen to him.
Okay.
Only then they realized it.
How long did it take?
For one monk, it took only one night. At the end of that discourse, he attained the first level of enlightenment. For others, got different times. Depending on the levels of their understanding, these faculties. So this is very important actually, as we practice, how do we do this self-reflection, how we can even measure our progress, So we can simply think about it, am I suffering? Because that is the goal, to end all the suffering. If there is any suffering in my life, emotionally, physically, mentally, with external world. So to answer that question, how would an enlightened person look at these natural disasters, these terror attacks, things like that? So they would think about these things. They would look at these things as the nature of this life. These things happen even at the Buddha's time. Very importantly, the Buddha's second chief disciple, Venerable Moggallana, he was attacked by thieves. They came because he was very famous. He was very popular in that society in India during that time, because he was second only to the Buddha with the psychic powers. So he was a very unique person. So all other religions, all other faith groups hate him. They wanted to destroy him. So one day they came to kill him while he was meditating in the temple on his own. So with his divine mind, he saw it, that they were coming to kill him. So with his psychic powers, he disappeared. It happened for the second time. And third day also they came to kill him. So he was thinking about it. He was reflecting on that. Why is this happening? So then he realized this is a big karmic effect, a very bad karma result that was coming to him, which cannot be escaped. So that day he didn't live. He was just meditating. They came and hit him with different weapons and broke his bones into pieces. Even at that time he was not suffering because of his enlightenment. He was very mindful. He was an enlightened person. So they hit him to death, and they left, realizing that he was completely dead. So with his psychic powers, he collected his body and went to the Buddha with his psychic powers and explained the story, what happened. So he asked the permission to pass away. So Buddha gave the permission. So that was the story for him. So can you imagine such a tragic incident for an enlightened person directly? So they mindfully interact with that without getting disturbed, still maintaining that inner peace. So you can see how they would interact with external tragedies like that. So they would reflect on a similar way. They would understand this is how the world works. This is how individuals are going through their own karmic results, as a result of causes and effects. Sometimes no one has control over that. So this is how we have to look at them as well. We are running out of time. Okay, one more.
So, what does a person who to other people cannot be understood do to prove himself to others and be understood.
I didn't get it.
So, since it's incomprehensible
What?
the Buddha
Okay, enlightenment? Oh.
can be, cannot be, it's incomprehensible the peace that comes with opening your third eye. So how does that person then communicate to all of the other people who couldn't imagine that step forward kind of thing? How would he, what does he communicate? What does he do? How can he connect?
So Buddha had a special skills.
Okay.
He had very special skills to scan other people's spirituality, their mind, their tendencies,
Right.
their levels of these spiritual faculties.
Mm-hmm.
Considering all these things, Buddha would teach them the
Sure.
only necessary Dhamma for their enlightenment. This is why his teachings were very successful for many people, because Buddha would not teach the Dhamma just having no reason, having not observed these characters, their predispositions, things like that. Buddha had very special skills doing that. So that is the power of his enlightenment, his knowledge.
So you have to have someone willing to accept the critique, a critique.
For the enlightenment, you mean?
Yes.
So in our case, we have to do that for ourselves, since there's no one else to do that for us, right? So I'm understanding, like, if there is a Buddha, he would take us to the enlightenment. That's what I'm sensing. But there's no such a thing. Buddha cannot make us enlightened.
Right.
They are only showing us the path. Eventually,
Right.
we have to be the guide. We have to practice ourselves. So we can see it's our responsibility. We are responsible in that, right? We can get the support, we can get the guidance, we can share the experience, we can share the knowledge, but eventually it's our own effort, our own transformation through necessary steps.
Yes. But if Buddha's next to you, then he'll tell you what you can, he'll be able to tell you what you can do to sit in stillness better.
Yeah.
So
I think the Buddha would teach us the same thing that we learned today.
Exactly.
I think he would say this.
That's why I said Buddha did not leave anything behind. He taught everything. That's why we need to learn the Dhamma. That's why we need to listen to the Dhamma, the teachings. We need to know the path. So it's our responsibility, right? All right. With that, let's end our session today. Thank you very much, and all the blessings to you. May you be enlightened. All right. Thank you. So we have a weekend retreat this weekend. We start at 8 o'clock. So